Welcome to the Jali podcast. I'm your host, Melyssa Barrett. This podcast is for those who are interested in the conversation around equity, diversity, and inclusion. Each week, I'll be interviewing a guest who has something special to share or is actively part of building solutions in the space. Let's get started.
A little over a year ago, I lost my spouse.
I lost my spouse.
A love story, marriage, relationship
relationship.
that spanned decades. Join us as we explore love, the journey of losing a spouse, and the process of finding ourselves. This is the Widowhood Story.
I'm Lettie, and I'm the host of the Widowhood Story. If you like what you hear, please press like and also press subscribe so you'll be notified when the next episode is released. So with that being said, I just want to say a widow fact. I've noticed that widows are, the average age of widows between the age of 50 is 59. And I think today we have a lady here who today with us who was very young when she lost her partner, and I would let her tell her story. So today I would like to introduce Melyssa Barrett.
I think a lot of times, you said very young, but I don't know. I was 49 when I lost my husband. And I actually thought he would always, I just knew that he would live to be like 100 because most of his family lived to be like well into their 90s, 102. And so it was very shocking. I always thought I would go before him. But we found out that he had cancer. It was November of 2015. And he passed in March of 2017. So it was
2 years later.
Barely. Yeah, just under. And so it was kind of one of those things that was really, he was feeling good. He ended up going to a church event I think it was in Fairfield that day. And he just felt like he wasn't feeling good for some reason, like, kind of flu cold. And I was like, you should go to the doctor, maybe you have the flu. And that's kind of when everything started was, he went to the doctor and his doctor saw something in his lungs.
Oh, wow.
And so went for further testing, did some blood tests. And what was interesting to me is I actually ended up having lunch with a colleague of mine, and she never talks about her story with anyone. And she happened to have a health episode kind of recently. And she had told me that, I guess when you lose your hemoglobin and it goes down to like, 5 or 6, your body shuts down. And so she had told me this story about how her hemoglobin went down to like, I think it was 8 or something. And her doctor called and said, you need to go to the emergency room right away. And she told me this whole story. And I was like, wow, I'm so glad you're okay. But then my husband got the call when his blood test happened, and the doctor was like, you need to get to the hospital right away.
This is around the same time your friend?
Yes.
Oh,
like
wow.
Within days. And I know for a fact, because I was commuting like 2.5 hours each way to work. Normally, if they would have called and said, you should go to the hospital, I probably would have said, you could wait till tomorrow or something. You know what I mean? So it's amazing how God will work in your life, because I was like, because I heard her story, I was like, we better go right now. And his hemoglobin was like 5.6.
Oh, no.
So for me, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, like what's going on?
But wait just a minute. So God had let this woman speak to you and talk to you about this before this happened with your husband. Totally preparing you.
Totally preparing.
That's crazy, amazing.
And I know that was done for that reason, because I would have been like, yeah, you could wait,
So you kind of have that personality. Oh, it'll be fine. Oh, that's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it was a couple days later, we found out from the doctor that he had stage 4 colon cancer. and it had already spread to
Mm.
his liver and his lungs.
Oh, wow. So
And it
sad.
was just before Thanksgiving that year. And so it was kind of one of those where it was like, well, we're thankful, but like,
Yeah.
what do we do with this exactly? And he literally was feeling okay. I mean, other than like kind of feeling a little
Hmm.
sluggish and maybe having a stuffy nose or something like
Yeah.
that, it wasn't like he was really sick. And he continued like that for like a year.
So he did do chemo, didn't
He did. He decided he really wanted to go to Arizona and do it through the Cancer Treatment Center of America
he?
because he could, kind of enlist in some trials, and
Mm-hmm.
they would, kind of pay for travel
Hmm.
and transportation
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So he went that route, and we would go back and forth and all of that, and he did that for a year. And January of 2017 is when I noticed a complete difference. Like, I don't think he's going to be able to go back to Arizona. He was just really tired. And you could just tell that we needed to find a doctor
Yeah.
out here in California so that,
Mm-hmm.
if something happened, they would be close by. And so we did that. And when we went to that doctor, he was like, yeah, this is not looking good.
Oh,
And it was, a couple months after that he passed away.
just
And
like that.
yeah, well,
Mm.
at the time, I was a vice president at a payment technology company. So I ended up having to go to Dubai for a conference. I was speaking at a conference or something. And I got a call from the doctor because he was in the hospital, and they were like, he's really not responding. So you probably should get back here
And
as
you were
quick
in
as
Dubai
possible.
at that time.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So I literally got on a flight 16 hours later. A friend of mine picked me up from the airport, took me immediately to the hospital. And I walk in the door, and he's like, hey, babe. And I
He
was
was
like,
filled with it.
yeah. I mean, they were like, he did not look like this yesterday.
Wow.
And so that was the point where him coming home, it was like, we got to get you on hospice
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. So he came home, and he, about 2 weeks later, 17 days or so later, is when he passed away.
So you guys were around the same age?
Yeah, he's 3 years older than me.
Wow.
Yeah, so I
That's
was 49 at the time, and he
52.
was he
52.
was going to be 52
Wow.
a month later.
Yeah. And you had small children too, didn't you? Have young children?
They were older,
They wasn't
so
grown. They were still
they were
young.
they were they had just graduated high
Oh,
school.
okay.
So they were, like, our
Oh.
youngest had just graduated high school, and then we have a daughter who's about 2 years older,
Hmm.
and then another son who's 5 years older than her. So
So did he have much like so when they diagnosed him with stage 4, how long he lived after that? A year?
it was about what, 14 months,
Oh,
15
really?
months?
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
It sounded like he never really stopped. I mean, hospice was very short for him, right?
It was, yeah. It was, I mean, and honestly, he was like, I'm only going on hospice so I can go home, you know. And so
So
it
he
was kind of one
survived
of
it
those,
all?
yeah, he was like, I'll be fine, but and then 2 weeks later, I mean, you could just see the deterioration
Hmm.
in, just his body, his look. I mean, I look back at pictures now, and he looks like a 90-year-old man.
Hmm.
There's things you don't notice as much until later.
Yeah. And I know what you're talking about because the hospice when John died, hospice came like 1 week, and then next week she said, "Oh my goodness, she was like shocked at how quickly he had declined. And so he was headed out, but it happens really quick once they start going down, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it happened really fast. I mean, and I think people at work were very supportive, but there was always this challenge with, do I take time off now
Mm.
or later? Like when is the right time
Yeah.
to actually take off work? Because when my father passed away, also he had colon cancer.
Mhm.
It was really a struggle for us to figure out, like, I mean, do you wait until you think they really
Yeah.
need it, or
Mhm.
and so
So
it
what
was.
did you do? Did you take off or did you not take off?
So I didn't take off. I mean, I was trying, obviously you need the benefits and
Yeah,
all of that
yeah.
kind of stuff. So I was trying to manage
Mhm.
commuting 2.5 hours each way. And at one point, the hospital here in our city, let's just say he didn't like it at all.
Mm. Yeah.
So we got to the point where we were going all the way over to Walnut Creek, which is like an hour away. And I was
Mhm.
like, what if something happens? He was like, I don't care. I would rather die
Yeah.
on the road
Then go
than
there.
go there. So I was like, okay.
Yeah. This is
So
his life, huh?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what we did. And
Wow. So how'd you meet this wonderful person? Where'd you guys meet? Tell us the backstory here.
you know what's so funny about our story is I met him, I was 12 years old.
Oh my gosh,
And yeah, so he used to hang out with my sister and her friends because they were 3, 4 years older than me.
Mhm.
And at the time, I was 12 years old. So, we had it was
Hanging
no
out with
interest
this.
or
Yeah.
anything. And fast forward, years later, he got married, I got married. We both ended up divorced.
Mhm.
We went to the same church. And at one point, my dad, who was going through cancer at the time, Peter came up to me. So his name was Peter.
Mhm.
And he was like, if you ever want somebody to just ride with you, because my parents lived in Modesto at the time and it was like an hour, hour and a half to get there.
Mhm.
And he was like, if you ever need somebody to ride with you, I'll just ride with you. And I was like, okay. So one day that happened. And, I don't know, some months later, he was like, well, I really like you.
When he wait. So he offered to ride with you. Did you know at that time, or did it seem like
No, no,
just
no. And we were
friendship?
just
Just
friends.
friend.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, we went to the same church and
Yeah.
was like, oh, whatever.
Mm.
But when he said, he liked me, and I was like, I don't like you like that.
Did you?
You're like too short and, well, all
Was he
this kind of
shorter than
stuff.
you? He
He
wasn't shorter
wasn't
than you.
shorter than me, but he was under
He was a good looking guy too. Look
he
at you.
was under my ideal height.
Oh, okay. He didn't meet the mark,
I
huh?
had
That
the check
box.
boxes, right? So, but yeah, so eventually he went through this entire Valentine's Day,
Oh.
thing where he was delivering flowers, and he had gone through multiple people to make it fully anonymous. So I had no idea who sent me these
Oh, he
flowers.
was doing this without you. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well,
And
a
so
romantic guy there,
this was his big demonstration, I guess.
huh?
And I'm one of those people. I was like, yeah, I don't know who gave me these flowers, but I'm not an investigator.
Oh, he
So
wasn't even
I,
trying to figure it out, huh?
I was like, so eventually I found out it
Yeah.
was him, and we ended up going out, and
Uh-huh.
and then we ended up getting married. So
Wow.
yeah, it
So you
was
guys, did you date a little bit before you
not that long. I
really?
think probably because we had both been married before
Uh-huh.
and had not great
Yeah.
experiences. But we also nobody really knew we were dating. And so
You got
when,
undercover dating, huh?
yeah, so literally when the church found out, everybody was kind of like, wait, what? So it
Mhm.
was kind of one of those shocking things.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we went on to be married. It would have been our 25-year anniversary about 3 weeks after
Um,
before he passed. So we would have celebrated it 3 weeks
23.
later. Yeah.
Wow. So close.
Yeah. And it was so funny because I remember at our 20th anniversary, he set up this entire surprise remarriage thing.
Mm.
So we renewed our vows, and it was a surprise to me. So after church, the minister said, would you come up to the
Oh, they all
front?
knew everybody.
Yeah, everybody knew. I didn't know. And so it was like, what's happening? And we renewed on our 20th. He always wanted to renew our vows like every 5 years. And I was like, I don't want to marry you every 5 years. And so I was
These
like,
were a good thing when you had a good thing. Let you know that.
so at 20, I was like, at 25, we can do it. And
Mm.
so he did it at 20, which, thank God he did
Yeah,
because we wouldn't have
yeah.
made it. So,
Wow. Oh my
so it was
goodness.
precious.
That
Yeah.
was good. Really good. So, do you kind of, when you guys got, when he passed away, did you feel like you can feel his presence or had dreams or anything like that when
Oh yeah, all of that.
you
All of that.
really?
And I think, I mean, for me, it was, there was like uncertainty going on at my job.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't sure if I had a job or
Yeah.
not. And
While this was going on with you, after you
just
passed
right
away?
after he passed, it was
Wow.
kind of like this question mark about, what was going to happen with my job. And so I decided to get a coach,
Mm-hmm.
because I was trying to figure out, like, I mean, when you lose somebody like that, it's like your legs are cut off.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
even know how I'm functioning.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, getting a coach was really helpful because it made me really start to do the work on myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
who am I without
Yeah.
this man? Because
Yeah.
my identity was very wrapped up in as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just trying to be me, I didn't really know what that meant. I
Mm-hmm.
was so used to being part of a team.
Oh, wow.
And so for me, it was helpful because it got me thinking, like, what is it that I really want? Do I want to just stay at this job for,
Mm-hmm.
the next 10 years? Or like, what am I doing with my life? And how do
Yeah.
I want to make the impact?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when things started to change. And one of my coaches, I had one coach and then I moved to another coach. And my coach was like, he literally was like, um, what do you want to do with your life?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't really know. And so he started asking me all these questions, and it got me really thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to figure out, well, how do I actually stop working? Because I was, 50, and I was trying to figure out, like, what does my life look like for the next,
Yeah.
30 or 40 years?
Yeah.
Because I did feel like I was pretty young. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
you were. Mm-hmm.
so, it was kind of one of those things where I was struggling to figure it out. And then by pulling these people into my life,
Mm-hmm.
he was the one that really, the first thing I remember is he really kind of kept me pushed outside my comfort zone. And I had to get comfortable with being outside of that comfort zone.
Being uncomfortable. You have to get comfortable
Yes.
being uncomfortable, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, like, okay, so now I'm pretty much uncomfortable every day.
Yeah.
So I'll just
This is
stay
where I live, huh?
comfortable.
Yeah.
And so that's that, and then God brings so many,
Yeah.
people into your life, the networks that I mean, I ended up, rushing a sorority at 50 years
Did
old.
you really?
Yeah, it was interesting. Um, but it was, my sorority sisters, my church.
Support.
Yes, it
Mhm.
was it
Yeah.
was amazing for me and still is. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like I don't know where I would be if I didn't have the kind of network that I
Yeah.
had.
And I think that's what's really important when we lose that. We need to have support, people around us. People not just around us for us to cry with, but just help us to just kind of navigate life, navigate through life.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden you were two, 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 and then all of a sudden you like one. It's like, and so my next question to you, there's a difference between being lonely and being alone. Which one of those do
Yes.
you kind of experience mostly? Or how do you navigate those two?
So I think early on, and so now my husband's been, past, it'll be 9 years. And I would say at the beginning, I think I was absolutely lonely.
Mhm.
Even when I was around people, I
Yeah.
was lonely.
Hmm.
And so, like, I'll never forget, I went to my first wedding afterwards, after he passed, like a month later. And I just felt like, I don't even know.
Mm.
Sorry. Hmm. it was kind of one of those things where a light is shining on you and you have no
Mhm.
idea what to do. And so I still have challenges going to weddings.
Do you really?
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's not a comfortable thing,
Yeah.
but I try.
Hmm. And
So
it's interesting because I think you're the first person that kind of make that kind of connection. Because most of the widows that I've been interviewing, they're like older, like myself, so they don't still have a whole social life going. Whereas, like I say, you were young when this happened, and you
yeah.
feel young. And do you and you don't wear your ring. At what point did you take off your ring? At what point did you start becoming more
Yeah,
social?
I'm trying to remember when I think taking off my ring, it was probably, I'm sure it's probably within a year.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't like right away. And I think even like that whole process of removing his
Yeah.
clothes from the closet and all that kind of stuff, it was a process for me. I wasn't really in a rush to do it.
Hmm.
And at one point my kids came home or they at least kind of all converged in my
Yeah.
room and
Yeah.
it was like, oh, I want this and I want that. And I was like, I'm not sure I'm ready for y'all to be like
Yeah.
rummaging through my stuff. But
This was like a year after you said that, right? Okay, so
yeah, so it was, I mean, there was time and I did absolutely want them to have certain
hmm
things. So it was a good kind of transition.
hmm
And I just took my time with it because my mom took, I think, way longer than I did.
Oh, really? To put your dad stuff away. Yeah.
Yes.
So would you say more than 2 years that you completely just is it still do you still have remnants of things like
Oh, for sure. I still have, I mean, he had probably, I think he has like 9 djembe drums. And because he played the drum, he
yeah,
was an oral tradition storyteller
yeah.
and he called himself the Jali. And so, like, my podcast is kind of a head nod to him called the Jali
Uh,
podcast. And so a lot of what I do is really trying to make sure that our stories are out there.
yeah,
Who's doing the work?
yeah.
And he was very focused on the African American community
Mhm.
because there's not a lot of Black oral tradition
Yeah.
storytellers. But so I'm constantly kind of giving him honor
I see.
and through Kwanzaa and other
Yeah.
principles that he was focused on.
I
So,
think that's the first time I met you was you guys had Kwanzaa at your house and he
yes,
was doing the drums and all that stuff.
yeah,
And when Gwen first talked about you, I said I didn't remember who you were, but then after we started talking, I saw you, I think the other in over in my office area.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I said, oh yeah, I remember her because you guys are still doing you did it this year. I mean,
Yes,
with last
yes. It
yeah.
was our 26th year.
And you just so I imagine even those are moments that makes it dear and near to you because that was you and his thing together. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's been this was like the 7th one, I think, without him.
Oh wow.
And the first one, I think everybody kind of converges. When you go through the first year, everybody's there for you.
Right.
And then the second year, like
Where are
nobody's
they?
around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like shocking, I think, a little bit to try to figure out what
Hmm.
you're doing and where you're going and who
Yeah.
you are.
But that has to be every time you do that, that has to awaken something in you because that was your baby, kind of, right?
Yeah. No, but it's almost like an honor.
Okay.
And so like even when I think about Kwanzaa, we always talked about Kwanzaa every day. So you need to
Oh, did you
practice the
really?
principles every
Oh
day. It's not
wow.
just once a year. And so, I mean, I have one of his cousins sent me a cutting board with the Kwanzaa principles engraved, and then it actually has his signature on the bottom.
Oh.
And so it was kind of one of those like, so I actually, and he was like, don't hang it on the wall, use it. And
That's
so
who you
every
were.
day
Yeah.
we're using it and we're
Yeah.
looking at those principles all the time, right? So,
Yeah.
just finding ways to build
Hmm.
principle and honor into your daily life, I
Yeah.
think is how you honor those that you've lost.
So then that kind of feeds right into the other traditions that we celebrate, like I don't know, like birthdays or any other holidays that you guys had together. How was those first going through those first? How did that work with you?
Yeah, I think it was really challenging,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of times your body knows what's coming before your
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Yeah.
And so you start to, figure out like what is going
Why am I
on.
feeling this, huh? Yeah.
Right. And then you realize like, oh, the anniversary of this is coming up or,
Yeah.
whatever. And, I think just building more rapport with yourself so that
Mm-hmm.
you understand what is happening
Mm-hmm.
and is so critical because I think I was so out of tune with who I was
Mm-hmm.
and I had to learn myself again, and start to listen to what God was telling me
Yeah.
and so that I would know like, oh, okay, I know I'm going to feel this way, so I need to probably not do this or
Mm-hmm.
make time for myself
Yeah.
or, go
Yeah.
out with a friend so that I can vent or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it starts to inform your actions so that you can really get what you need.
Yeah.
Let's pause for a moment. We'll be right back.
So I love how you say get in touch with yourself because if we don't, we'll get stuck. Could easily get stuck and not knowing what's going on. Why am I feeling this way? I don't want to get out of bed and not remembering, okay, it's okay to feel this way and this is what we're going through.
Yes.
That's an important piece. Get to know yourself and because yeah, your body will let you know before your mind catch up with it,
Yes.
huh?
Yeah,
And that was good.
definitely. Yeah,
So,
it's a journey.
mhm,
And, I think a lot of people will try to say, like, oh, she'll get over it.
mm,
But you take everything with you,
yeah. And
and
you don't want to
so,
get over it anyway. You
right,
want to get through it. You don't
right.
want to get over it.
Well, and I think you're different because
Yes.
of it,
Oh,
right? So
absolutely.
you bring all of that with you,
Yeah.
and now you're this new person that is
Yeah.
emerging
Yeah.
on the scene, and it's like, okay, who are you, and what do
Yeah.
you want to be, and
Yeah.
where are you going, and what impact do you want to
And I
make?
think what you just said, you bring it with you. And the thing about it, you bring it with you, but nobody knows it's with you but you,
Right.
right? You're doing this and they think your life is just regular, but you still bringing the stuff with you because it's part of you. It's so much
Yes,
a part of you, right?
yes, absolutely.
I love it. And you can tell you did the work and you had support because the stuff you're saying is really what we need to learn to do. Get to know yourself, get to know those feelings and don't try to push them away.
Yeah, because you will
Embrace them.
feel uncomfortable a lot.
Hmm.
And I think for me, it was like, I don't, nobody likes to feel
Right,
uncomfortable.
right.
It's just not a place that you want to be, but it's okay
Yeah, it's
because,
okay.
you start to learn. And my coach was really good at saying, it's okay. You're
Hmm.
gonna get through it. I know it feels
Hmm.
completely out of control,
Yeah.
but, I started to say yes more to things that I knew made me uncomfortable.
Like what, for instance?
So I had a friend of mine about a month or two after he passed, and she called me and said, hey, I'm going to the Bahamas with some friends. Do you want to come? And every time somebody would ask me something within that period of time, usually I would say, oh, no, thanks, though. I appreciate
Mm.
it. And I had really had this conversation, and I said, I should probably start to say yes more. And so when she called me, I was like, okay, yes. And it was kind of like, I've never
Mm.
been to the Bahamas.
Yeah,
I don't know the friends that she's going with, but I knew her.
yeah.
And
You knew her enough to know it would be safe and it's a
yes,
good space for you. Oh,
yes.
good.
And I mean, to this day, I remember that trip so fondly because I think it really helped me to just take a leap and do
Hmm.
something that I hadn't done before.
Hmm.
And it was a great trip. I mean, I enjoyed the
Yeah.
women. It was, you build new friendships. It was
Hmm.
fabulous.
One of the women talked specifically about in their relationship, they had like gender roles, gender specific. Did you and him, was there things that he did and things that you did around at the house, around the house, or?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned I commuted two and a
Mm-hmm.
half hours each way.
Yeah.
So I was often not at home,
Mm-hmm.
and he tended to work a lot more from home.
Oh, wow.
So he probably did more cooking than I did.
Mm-hmm.
He certainly did a lot more around the house than I did. I found that out pretty quick
Oh,
because I was like,
yeah.
whoa, like
Who's supposed to be doing this, right? Who's
this house is a mess. Like, what happened? And so, yeah, there were a lot of things
Yeah.
that he did that I didn't really notice as
Mm-hmm.
much. And, now it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I know I have to take out the garbage. I mean, I never had to take out the garbage.
Yeah.
And so there are things now that I'm like, oh, I still got to do that,
Mm-hmm.
because I forget,
Yeah.
to do different things. It's like, oh, the trash is today.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are things that he used to do that I just never
Yeah.
did.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always been a challenge to
Yeah.
try and make sure that whatever I'm doing is right.
So initially, because you learned to do it now, it's been over 5 years. So initially, did it bring sorrow or sadness when you kind of, because like with me, like the toilet was humming or the roof needed leak, and I'm like, oh, he- so those made me, I kind of almost got angry and sad and all this stuff at the same time because now I've got to step in to do that.
Right. What was so interesting for me is my husband was one of those people. I used to say that he would be down the street and around the corner with a decision, and I would still be in the driveway.
Oh,
And
really?
so when he passed, he actually had people that he had set up that would help me when he was gone. So for example, he would like if I needed something fixed at the house,
Mhm.
there was always somebody that would be available. Like, somebody from our church. There's this one guy, anytime anything breaks at my house, I call him first.
Oh, really? So he was always there, part of your life, even when your husband was around.
No.
Oh, okay.
But it was kind of one of those where I don't know if he talked to people before he left and
Oh,
said, "Hey, make sure." But there's this group of people that are like, "Hey, if you need something, call me."
and they really mean it, and they're not just
Yes.
saying, "Okay, wow."
And those are the folks that I still lean on today,
Hmm.
and they're the ones that really kind of help me on a day-to-day basis.
So what I'm hearing, and I realize this is real because you guys, it's just the whole Kwanzaa thing, and part of that is community, part of that is
Yes.
being present. And so not only did you guys live it, but you created a community that completely
Yeah, I
use
suppose
it.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like
I
it.
mean, and it's, I mean, we go to church every week,
Mm-hmm.
we would do Bible classes. So, I mean, our church family is just so precious to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to expand that
Yeah.
into, other networks like sororities
Yeah.
and other
Yeah.
organizations, I mean, we always worked in the community. And so it has been really helpful. But then it's kind of like you look at the different circles in your
Mm-hmm.
life, and there are people that were inside that
The
first
close circle.
circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can call them for whatever you need
Yeah.
anytime, day or night. And so those are the ones to me that it's like when I look around and I go, oh my gosh, the stove is not working and I can't get this
Yeah.
ticking to stop. I mean, that was a real thing. And I was like, I don't know what to do. It's a gas stove and I
Yeah.
can't get it to stop. And I called this one guy, and I mean, I called him and he was like, okay, do this, and so
Mm-hmm.
he'll tell me like what to do. I came home from one trip after Pete passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and my water heater had busted. Apparently, for like 3 days, water had been leaking
Oh.
everywhere.
Oh.
My kids didn't notice. They lived in the house,
But they
but
never
but
know.
it came through the walls. And so, I mean, I had to have the entire office, garage. I mean, it was like a mess. The floors had to be
Yeah.
redone. Nobody noticed. And I mean, it was a nightmare. Luckily, I had
Mm-hmm.
insurance and all that, but
Yeah.
it was kind of, I mean, people helped me. And I started to realize I had to ask for help.
Yes. Yeah, you have to ask because they don't know. They can't read our mind, right? You
Yes,
have to ask. And when you ask, they're pretty
they're
much
there. Yeah.
they're there good. So your children were adults. Do you guys have like talks about I mean maybe not now, but did you guys do much talking about this after he passed, or was it just unspoken but thoughts were there?
It's interesting because I think all of my kids had different relationships with their
Mm-hmm.
dad,
Mm-hmm.
and they were all in different spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my daughter definitely took it the hardest. But I think, or at least she showed it the
Mm-hmm.
most.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, there, like our oldest son, he came home and was like, connected with my husband, so that he knew like what was happening. I felt like he was giving him instruction before
Mm-hmm.
he knew, like, hey, in
Yeah.
case this happens, do this or that. And so all of them were kind of in different spaces. But I think, and I'm probably the least emotional one
Are
of the
you
bunch.
are you really?
Yeah. So for me, it's always been really hard for me to show
Mm-hmm.
emotion. And so, because I grew up, my dad was like, "Oh, suck it up and,
Goodness.
go on to the next thing." And
Well,
so
you was the only child, were you?
there's two of us.
Girls?
Yeah, two girls.
He's tough, huh? He make
Yeah.
you tough, but that's good.
Yeah. Well, and I think he was one of those people that was like, you're a woman, you can do whatever you want to
Oh
do in
wow.
life,
Uh-huh.
and I want to make sure you're prepared.
Oh wow.
So if you need to change a tire, I'm gonna show you how to change a tire, how to change your oil,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of lives in my head all the time. It's like, okay, well, what would my dad do? Because I would normally call my dad. And then when I lost my dad in 2007, and then I lost my husband in 10 years later.
Yeah.
So it was kind of one of those like, okay, you can do this. What am I supposed to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Well,
still an evolution,
yeah.
you know,
I don't think it will end. I mean, because again, it's like was part of us for some like mine was like 45 years. So it's such a long time when you
yeah,
and I was right out of college and I never lived on my own. Never lived alone. So for me,
right.
this is like
Yeah,
it's a challenge.
huge.
So what about in-laws? Do your in-laws take part
My,
in this?
excuse me, my mother-in-law actually just passed away, and she was 99.
Oh wow. Uh-huh.
So yeah, it was, I mean, his family lives for long periods of time. So
And
for him to pass
yes.
is kind of a like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And,
Oh
we
wow.
went to a holistic doctor. One of the things that they were talking about is he had this real need for liquid. And so at one point, I think he was like, I think I'm an alcoholic. So he just like cold turkey quit
Mm-hmm.
drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we were heavy into the church and, making
Mm-hmm.
sure that we were taking our kids and raising our kids. And then he started getting into diet soda. And he would drink like 2 liters a day.
Oh really?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, and then at one point he shifted to water, and then he shifted back to
Mhm.
diet soda again. And they were like, yeah, that's like sweet poison, I mean, the diet soda and all the chemicals that are in there are just not good for you.
And even though it's saying diet, you still know it's
Right.
still
Yeah.
got so much other stuff. And if
Yeah.
you to make you like it, it's got to have some stuff to make it taste good, right?
Yeah,
That's good.
absolutely. So, we probably figure that it probably had something to do
Yeah.
with all of that, but
And was she the only one drinking like that? The liquid, the sodas and stuff? No.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I mean, and you kind of look back and it's like, wow, he did drink a lot
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
the, and so I was like, I mean, I don't know if, I mean, it was kind of one of those things like you probably shouldn't drink that much, but you're thinking diet soda,
Yeah.
like,
That's a big deal.
yeah.
So we talked a little bit about this, but like when you go into public spaces like church, you guys went to church together like, all the time. You
Hmm.
did things all the time, always together. So now when you and now you've adjusted, but in the beginning when you would go back to church or spaces where You would normally go with them. How was that for you? How did you?
So you say I've adjusted. I don't know. I think
Okay.
I'm still adjusting,
Okay. Okay.
but it's I think like we used to do a lot of couples retreats and
Mm-hmm.
couples ministry and all of
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. And it's still difficult, because people will announce, "Hey, we're having a
Yeah.
couples ministry," and I'm like, "Oh, I can't go to that,"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think it's still a bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of people that knew him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's helpful because I think a lot of times you want to be reminded, it's like, oh, this
Yeah.
reminded me of Pete or,
Yeah.
whatever. But it can be challenging
Yeah.
where, you don't know your place.
Yeah. I got a letter in the mail that had MISS on it. It's like, oh, dang. That it's like this. It's like no more MRS. It's MSS.
Yes.
It's like it just shot. It was like, and it was just that's what who I am. That's what I am. I'm
Yeah.
MISS. I'm not MRS. But when I saw it for the first time, it's like,
Yeah, it's
dang,
it's a it's a transit that
yeah,
I remember that at myself because it was like, oh, I'm not a missus,
yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's like, and like you said, in the church they have these couples things, and men and women are there. It's like, oh, dang. I'm like,
yeah. I'm like,
oh.
and I actually, what's interesting is we had a couples ministry event and I went.
Did you really?
I did. And it was weird, but I went and then I was like, okay, I probably don't need to be there
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
But it was a little bit odd.
But
So
when you were there, you just kind of felt you should go because this was part of who you were. You're the
yeah,
ministry.
I mean, it was kind of like it was a little bit open, but
Yeah,
it was kind of like, I mean, everybody was a couple, so I was
yeah,
like, why am I here? You know,
yeah,
and there were a couple of other folks there, but it was strange. So
yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's
It's,
good.
it's,
I'm good.
yeah, another thing when I mentioned to you about loneliness versus being alone, I don't so much feel lonely, but I feel alone. I like when I
Yes.
come home from an activity or someone to share or talk about something. There's no one there.
Yeah. And I think it's it starts to evolve,
Yeah.
right? Because for me, I felt lonely at first.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to the point where you're alone, and then you start to realize, I don't mind being alone.
Yeah, there's a
It's like,
freedom to it a little
yeah,
bit.
I need, and it's like, and then you realize, hey, I'm alone. I can do whatever I want.
I want the text to say I'll be home later. I'm running later. Not yeah.
Yeah. And now
It
your
evolved.
kids are
Yeah,
like, wait, where are you? And
yeah,
where are you going? And
yeah,
I was like, I thought I was grown. Why do I
yeah,
have to tell you where I'm going?
yeah. My son be saying, "What you gonna say? You're not the boss of me, right?" I say, but yeah, there's a certain amount of freedom that goes with it after you've realized this is where you are.
Yes.
You accept
Yes.
it, and this is where we are at this time, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. One personal question: have you dated since you?
It's so funny. I knew you were going to ask me that
I'm good.
question too. Because I know a lot of widows that, they're like, hey, I gotta get out here and,
Yeah.
like they go on dating apps and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And, a lot of my friends are like, hey, we gotta get you on an app or whatever. I have not really dated.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a few times where it's like, maybe, and then I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I don't think I'm ready.
Yeah.
And I just kind of am like, if something comes up,
Yeah.
great. If not, then that was that's what it's supposed to be.
And
So
so right now, it sounds like you're comfortable on the journey where you're at.
yeah.
You're not
Well,
really.
I am. And then sometimes I go, like, why would I want to do that again? Like there's such a freedom in
Yeah.
not being attached. But
Mhm.
so I'm enjoying myself. And I think my coach has really helped me
Mhm.
to really define, like, I mean, he always says design your life and then make sure you can, make money and do the
Yeah.
things that you want to do. But what do you want your life to be first?
Mhm.
And then all of the other
Will
things can
come.
come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of the money and that financial, did it have a big hit for you? Because now you lost an income or you lost what is it?
not as much.
Okay.
I mean, he was a performer,
Mm-hmm.
really an artist, a
Mm-hmm.
performing
Mm-hmm.
artist. And so, part of the reason I was commuting is because I kind of provided a lot of the stability.
And the
Um,
insurance and all that. But
yeah,
okay, so
yeah.
yeah. Mm.
So it was, I mean, it was kind of helpful in that way, because it wasn't as significant of a
Mm-hmm.
financial hit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, and I mean, and I think, a lot of men struggle when the woman makes more than the
Yeah.
man and
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. And that was a process for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was nice to be able to, for him to actually kind of understand we're a team.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when all this was happening, we had already, done the living trust and,
Oh,
all of that stuff
good.
way ahead of time. And so I always tell people, don't wait until you find out that somebody's sick.
Say
Do
that
it.
again.
Don't wait until you find out somebody is sick. Do your living trust and all of that well ahead of
Yeah.
time. Do it when you're feeling good,
Yeah. Yeah.
because when somebody's sick, you have all these other decisions that need to be
Yeah.
made, and it's so much more, it gives you so much more clarity when it's
Yeah.
already done.
And I think that is so important. The thing that I know it's not about me, but the thing that wasn't a problem for me, it was kind of like the same with me with the finances. Everything was pretty much already in my name. So it
Yeah,
wasn't like we had like a whole bunch of going to court and trying to get things changed
right.
over. But I've made sure I do my due diligence for my children now that
Mhm.
it's just
Yeah,
me. I make sure their names and all the
right.
trust is put
Yeah.
in place. But yeah, it
Yeah,
makes a
and I had to
difference.
update the trust after,
Yeah,
right? So it's like, make sure that you're
yeah.
taking care of that, because it can be challenging.
Yeah, and people don't want to talk about stuff like that, or even funeral insurance stuff. They don't want to talk about that. But when it hits you, I'm telling everybody, you better make sure you have this and this and that because when you're
Absolutely.
going through it, it's so much harder if you
Yeah.
haven't made any plans already.
And to have all of that preparation, I mean, I knew like who he wanted to sing at his memorial service. I
Um,
knew like, do you want to be buried or do you want to be, cremated? I
um,
mean, all of that stuff had been done, which took a huge burden and weight off of my mind
um,
because it had already been decided and I could just execute on what
mhm.
his wishes were.
And that's so smart. That is just so smart when we think that we can, if when we can think that way, it just make because this death is inevitable. We're
Yes.
gonna die. I don't know who go
Yes.
first, who not go first. Like my husband thought he would go, I would go first because he was in the medical field. I'll be taking care of you. I'll be doing this like
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
But it turned out being just the opposite.
Yeah.
I really like hearing your story. Is there anything that you would like to share with the group, with whoever's listening, that how I mean I think how you got through it having your life coach. Everybody can't have a life coach, but tell us something that you got from some free info. Give us some free nuggets that you got because it sounds like that person really helping you
Well,
through.
I think what I needed at the time, that I will definitely say my coach provided was a lot of permission.
Mm,
And so a lot of times we hold ourselves back.
yeah,
And, being able to have somebody in your life say, you know what, you're going to do great at this, and I'm going to be right there with you to
yeah.
help you through it.
Hmm.
That's the thing that allows you to go, okay, I can take one more step or go one more
Yeah.
day, or and it's really, he used to show me this, kind of like a picture he would create where he'd have, somebody going up a hill, and there'd be somebody at the bottom of the hill, somebody in the middle, somebody at the top. And he was like, somebody is always in front of you and somebody's always behind you.
Right.
And
Right.
so if you're in the middle, you're helping somebody behind you. And, look for those people that are ahead of you that
Hmm.
can give you
Yeah.
some wisdom.
I love that.
And so, it's like you may think you're alone, but you have a story, you have an
Mhm.
experience, that people can relate to. And so
And that's part of what this widowhood story is about because we hearing you. I mean, I'm the host here, but just hearing you, so much things that you're saying, I probably will pass it forward to other guests that come in because you do it. It's like you do it so well. I know we have our moments. I know you
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
but sounds like you're doing it so well. This is
Yeah,
good.
I mean, and I think you just embrace it's gonna be a
Yes.
journey. You're
Hmm.
not gonna, and people used to tell me it's like if you just burst out in tears, just let them flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just feel what you need to feel because
Yeah.
that's what you're supposed to be feeling at the time.
Yeah.
And, so I try not to suppress that
Yeah.
anymore and just allow things to be and
Yeah.
just, and I think for me, quitting my job, retiring after 30 years gave me this level of freedom
Mhm.
that I didn't have to be a certain
Yeah.
thing. And I could really just be myself.
And did you quit it? You quit it right after he passed up before you?
So I gave my resignation in 2021 and then I actually went on a sabbatical for a year
Oh,
and
wow.
quit for in 2022 officially. So it was
You went on sabbatical for a whole year, really?
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
and which is kind of unheard of. They didn't
Yes,
even have sabbaticals then.
exactly. That's crazy.
So it was kind of like, okay, well, sure, why not?
Hmm.
So I think, God just had this plan that
Hmm.
and I just said, okay, and so I used to, I mean, literally I would pray, like, light up the path I'm supposed to be on
Yeah,
because I don't know where I'm going,
yeah.
and, here I am. I just
Yeah. And I don't
keep
think this
walking.
is a coincidence. And this is not even presented as a Christian or spiritual podcast, but everyone has come on that talked about the journey. God is all even the one. And I don't know how people can do it without him, but
Yeah,
everyone has come on has talked about how God has been a vital part of their journey and continues to be a part
absolutely.
of their journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on here,
Thank you
Melissa
for having
Barnett,
me.
the Widowhood Story. If you like what you heard, please press like and also press subscribe so you'll be notified when the next episode is up.
Thanks for joining me on the Jali podcast. Please subscribe so you won't miss an episode. See you next week.